Hello and welcome to Communicating Health and Science. I'm Dr. Benjamin Mann. You're welcome to call me Ben, Dr. Mann, or Professor Mann. I am the chair of the Communication Studies program at Eastern Oregon University. I'm also an assistant professor of communication, and I'm incredibly excited to be teaching COM 310, Communicating Health and Science, the first time online at UU. Thank you so much for choosing to take the course. Each week, there will be a video in which I go over some of the key ideas from that week's reading and assignment and talk a little bit about some of the ways that you can use this material to help you as you're thinking through these ideas and working through the class as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So to start things out, I think it's a good idea to think about how initially you might imagine or think about healthcare providers, right? Because we have a lot of different words to describe our experiences of healthcare. For instance, some cases it might be brief. We have a very quick telehealth meeting with a health provider. It doesn't seem like they're very engaged, especially in the context of COVID. There has been more and more meetings about health and science that have happened remotely and very quickly. Sometimes it can be challenging, especially in dealing with a difficult disclosure. Something such as a cancer diagnosis can be very difficult to talk about. It can be positive, such as having a good experience with a provider who's able to give you medication, or a therapist or mental health counselor who's able to help you. Sometimes it can be misinformed, receiving information that's not useful or helpful for your situation. And it can be very difficult, the feeling of not being fully supported. So there are a lot of different ways that we might think about our own experiences, working with doctors, working with providers, working with people conveying this kind of information. And I think that that context is useful as we're exploring the course and the range of experiences that we might have. Health and science communication is a major subgenre within communication studies. You might be familiar with interpersonal communication, with mass media communication and journalism, with public relations, and health communication is one of the largest growing fields within communication studies in terms of academic positions, but also in terms of careers in healthcare and health management and public relations surrounding health and surrounding the communication of related topics. So this is a major area of attention. Posted here are two major journals. One is Health Communication and the other is Science Communication. I've published in both of those journals, and a lot of the readings that you'll see from this course are related to these two journals as well, which are very closely connected to issues that we'll be going over in this class. And I appreciate you taking the time to take this course. There's a lot of reasons why a topic like this one is incredibly relevant. First of all, in terms of career opportunities, as mentioned, if you're going down a medical or pre-med path or a sports medicine path, you're interested in nonprofit management, nursing, biology, ecology, there are so many different areas where gaining a grasp of these issues is incredibly important. Of course, we know that the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has been a major area of discussion, of controversy, of managing communication and expectations, particularly to the public, and as a major case study of some of the highs and lows of communicating about these issues to a public audience. We also might think about how we can improve our health communication and examine how, from a communication perspective, these issues can be discussed. How do we make people aware of information? How do we make this information publicly available and understandable? These are challenging issues that we have to continue to grapple with over time. So in this class, what we'll be looking at are a lot of different topics. For example, we'll be looking at the idea of the patient-provider relationship. What does it mean for somebody who's giving healthcare to give good healthcare? We talk a lot about the idea of bedside manner, right? What does it mean to receive good care? How can you be a good patient and make sure your needs are being met in health encounters? We'll be talking about a lot of different factors such as gender, culture, race, disability, and a variety of other aspects that shape identity. How does culture impact both how we understand health, the types of health issues that we might run into, and the strategies that we have for dealing with health-related issues? How do we communicate across a variety of those differences and topics? That'll be an area that we'll be talking about a lot over the course of this class. And we'll also look at a lot of health campaigns, including public campaigns, such as efforts to reduce the risk of HIV/AIDS, public campaigns related to COVID-19, and a variety of other topics, such as the DARE campaign. For all examples of how this type of information reaches a larger audience. So I always like to share a little bit about myself and my own background. I originally came to Eastern Oregon University, having grown up in the western side of the state. I thought that I was going to be an English teacher and pursued a bachelor's in English, but I fell in love with speech and debate and forensics and pursued a master's in communication in Northern California at the University of the Pacific, and then moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, where I completed my PhD in communication studies before moving to Eastern Oregon and living in La Grande. So my area is very much focused on health communication. I've published and done work in that field, and I'm very specifically interested in how folks with disabilities advocate for their health and advocate for their needs across a variety of different environments, using things like social media, including TikTok, Twitter, blogging, and so on to communicate about their health. So that's a lot of my background, and I coach the University of Utah speech and debate team, and we're also trying to get speech and debate started here at EOU. In terms of some of my interests, I have a Labrador retriever named Sylvie, who's very friendly, very exuberant, loves to go out and fetch large sticks. I also love video games and video game design. I'm working on my own strategy role-playing game, and I'm into a lot of games. Recently, I've been really into the video game Hades, but I enjoy a lot of different types of things. So I want to spend some time getting into some of the ideas related to health, and I also want to take some time to go over the syllabus and structure of the course in a little bit more detail. First of all, I think it's useful for us to understand the idea of health being well-being, right? This is a very broad definition because when we think about health, we might think about heart rate, we might think about blood tests, we might think about cholesterol, but what health means looks very different to different people, right? Health is not just you are not something, like you do not have a particular disease or condition. What health can mean is for someone who is living with a particular disability or experience, their ability to lead a positive and meaningful life. In other words, health is holistic, right? It's not just about if your body is running the ways that it needs to. You have physical needs, you have mental needs, and you have social needs that are all important in an overall definition and understanding of health. Not being sick does not necessarily mean that somebody is healthy, right? There are a lot of different ways that we can understand health across contexts. What do we consider to be well, to live a good life, to be well? Well, that is something that, of course, is communicated and differs across a lot of aspects of our lives, too. One good example of this is ongoing discussion in deaf communities surrounding the issue of cochlear implants. If you're not familiar, these are essentially installed and allow individuals who are deaf to be able to pick up on audio and hear very well. While for many individuals, this is seen as a positive thing and allowing people to be able to hear, we also know that there is a significant deaf culture, including in the United States, that uses American Sign Language and takes pride in the experience of being deaf and has been resistant or outright rejected cochlear implants in a way believing that this is eroding at their own culture, right? From one perspective, we might say that we need to respect and uphold and support this culture and the decisions that they make about their health. Someone else might say that we should support the idea of being able to hear as an aspect. So these contrasting perspectives speak to the way that what it means to be healthy can differ across individuals and require us to be sensitive to context and situation. What is the care that somebody wants? What is the experience that somebody's coming from? And what is shaping their participation in that process? It's also useful to take a step back and remember what communication is. So you might be familiar, if you've taken a communication course before, it's how we use symbols to convey reality and convey meaning to other people, right? I'm communicating with you right now over a video. You receive communication through an email, through a text message, through conversation, through press releases, through media and public communication as well. So our ability to convey meaning about health and science is crucial, especially in the context of mis and disinformation and making sure that we all have an accurate understanding of the communication that we're receiving. So health communication, right, is the ways in which we process, share, and utilize health information. It emerges as field in communication studies in the 1960s and has largely grown into its own area and was something I was excited to bring to EOU. It's something that happens in a multi-stage process. Before you enter a waiting room to receive care, right, you're receiving an intake. You're communicating to set up an appointment. So think about it as all of the different hurdles that one has to go through throughout that exchange. It's about establishing a relationship, such as a doctor or team that you're able to collaborate with effectively. This idea that the communication is interdependent. It's a two-way street. To provide good support, one also needs to be able to communicate clearly about the challenges that they're dealing with in their lives. Science communication is another important part of this process too. If you're not familiar, here in Portland, we have OMSI, the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry, which is an example of using a variety of different interactive exhibits and activities to teach science to children. So science communication covers a lot of different areas. One, for instance, is the idea of awareness, familiarity with science. What is going on? What is the theory of relativity? Enjoyment or appreciation, can we understand and engage with it, right? A lot of the activities at museums such as OMSI might ask somebody to make a boat that effectively floats or fly a paper plane to learn about aerodynamics. Having interest in the way that science is communicated to the public. Developing opinions and attitudes related to these issues. Again, we've seen this a lot in the context of COVID-19. And understanding the variety of factors that go into the idea of science as well. So there's a lot of different things that we'll pick apart here as we're looking at both health and science. These are two very interconnected topics, so we'll be exploring both of those over the course of the term. We also know that culture is important. There was a recent episode of the TV show Queer Eye in which there was an individual in a wheelchair who made it a point of discussing that he was not, nor did he consider himself to be disabled. Pictured here on the right is Wesley Hamilton, right? So Wesley's experience here is putting our understanding of disability, of health, illness in the context of his own experiences as a Black man. Right? How something like disability might be understood differently across contexts, cultures, and situations. There were some who pushed back and said that he should identify as disabled. He clapped back and said, no, that's not how I consider myself to be. So allowing that space for the different understandings of one's own health and body is crucial. Not all experts are sensitive to cultures, beliefs, and experiences. The role of informed consent is incredibly important in health interactions and ensuring that we are respecting the needs of others. For instance, there might be religious or spiritual reasons that somebody makes specific healthcare decisions and rejects certain forms of care. There might be rules about displaying emotion and sharing one's feelings, such as the experiences of pain. There might be differing accounts of acceptable information and what information somebody draws from to make health and science-related decisions. And there are differences in how people display and represent themselves across cultures too, such as the clothing that they wear and the way that they present themselves to others. So these topics, of course, are incredibly important. What do you hope to get out of an appointment or meeting? How are you able to get those goals met? How can you enhance your personal well-being and have a more fulfilling life? How might you save time and money through the process of receiving quality care? And how do you make sense of the plethora of information that we have? These are all topics that we'll be able to explore in more detail in this class. We might think about a variety of contemporary concerns as well. We know that the United States consistently spends significant amounts of money on healthcare, and yet despite this, we do not necessarily have the highest lifespan compared to other countries. So there are a lot of challenges with the United States healthcare system, and a lot of countries such as Japan that have very high degrees of health but spend less do so with an emphasis on preventative care. So there are a lot of challenges related to communicating about health and understanding and navigating the healthcare process. We also can consider COVID-19, the impacts that the pandemic has had on our understandings of health, the aging population, including retirees and baby boomers, and the impact that that can have on the economy, issues of healthcare reform, including the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, holistic and preventative medicine, as mentioned, empowering patients, and the role of a lot more virtual meetings discussing health, using things like e-health and telemedicine instead of a face-to-face doctor's appointment. So all of these topics help us to understand a bit of tapestry behind these issues too. So if we're tracing a little bit of the background surrounding health and communication, we can go all the way back to Imhotep in 28 BC, considered to be the first known physician who took an approach to emphasize both the religious and spiritual elements with the physical elements of studying about health and related issues. We can move into Hippocrates. You might be familiar with the Hippocratic Oath, which states, "Do no harm," and emphasizes the need to provide health and support to others. We also can think about this in the context of First Nations and Indigenous health, the ongoing culture and discussion surrounding health that oftentimes discusses oral history and the impact that can have. We also need to recognize the history of colonization and the ways that it has impacted Indigenous and First Nation people, including contracting new diseases such as smallpox, influenza, measles, and whooping cough that were incredibly damaging to a population that had no previous experience or contact with these diseases and therefore did not have the same biological resources to prepare against them. We can also see that there was a shift between science and spiritualism, right? The idea of supernatural forces, of religious or spiritual orientation and science, the tension, and at times complementary relationship that they have. There was the beginning of surgeries and home remedies. Descartes brought about the idea of a separation between mind and body. The Cartesian dualism helped to inform our understanding of health too. And then in the Industrial Revolution, we saw some major advances. The idea of germ theory developed and more scientific forms of studying health began to emerge. We can think about the scientific process as engaging in experimentation and testing, in creating hypotheses that we were examining through the use of research. And we led to the creation of the American Medical Association, the role of developing appointments and greater trust in the medical system. In 1910, we had what was known as the Flexner Report, which was a very scathing document that was examining the history of medical schools and facilities in the United States and found them to be well below par and well below the expectations of providing appropriate care, which caused many major medical facilities and schools in the United States to drastically increase their support, their funding, and their expertise in the medical field. In more recent times, we've seen challenges, including racial segregation and the impacts that that's had on access to care, specialization in care, specialized doctors such as rheumatologists that investigate specific issues such as autoimmune care, and the role of health insurance and managed care, which you might know to be an incredibly difficult issue to navigate, combined with the greater cost of things like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Going back to 2018, we can see the large impact that these services have had on the budget. So these are important considerations in discussing the financial issues related to health and science too. We know that issues of racial segregation, of institutionalization, of issues of policy have also brought about unique disparities and challenges in receiving care as well. And we know that issues of managed care, right, of providing care through things such as insurance can both make healthcare more affordable, but can also raise challenges in terms of providing a sufficient caseload, of being able to keep patients well and make sure that they receive the care that they need. If you've ever had to work through a health insurance claim and navigate that process, you know that that can be a very challenging issue to address. So there's a variety of different elements of the health process that you'll be able to look into for this week, considering things such as the health savings account, health maintenance organizations, and PPOs that provide health services as well. There are a variety of different elements that make our healthcare system that we can examine as well. So going over some of these key ideas, we've talked a little bit about health and science communication, some of the challenges and issues related to receiving health information. What I want to do now is shift gears and talk a little bit about some of the course policies and expectations so that you know what to expect for this particular course. So I wanted to start by showing you the main page of Canvas. That'll be a really great resource for you to use as you're working through this course. So If you visit the homepage for COM 310, you'll be able to access this through the sidebar on Canvas, clicking COM 310. You'll notice the syllabus is right here. I have a Zoom office, so you are welcome to, during my office hours, join through Zoom or send an email if you have questions or in need of support. Each week, you'll see that there is a topic. There is an assignment that I'll be asking you to read, and there are things that will be due for that week. You'll notice that several of the assignments are already posted, and I'll continue to post more over the course of the week to help you if you want to continue to work ahead through material. You'll notice that the first week's quiz and the first Canvas prompt are due this Sunday. You'll also notice that there is a textbook requirement for the course, but you will not need it until the second week of the term. So to help make things easier for you, I have a PDF of the first 2 chapters of the book so that you can just use them in preparation for completing the material that you need. And then as the term continues, we'll work through and you'll be able to use the textbook. So for week 3, for example, I'll be asking you to read those 2 chapters. You'll notice that there are some additional readings here. All of these readings are PDFs that you'll be able to access and use. So all you need is the Dupree textbook. All the other readings in the course you'll be able to access for free by clicking the PDF link. So what I'd like to take a look at next is the syllabus. So this is an online course. You're welcome to email me through this email address or message me through Canvas. I do have an office on campus if you'd like to get a hold of me on campus or use Zoom to access my office. You're also welcome to set up an appointment with me if my office hour times don't work for you and you would like to meet with me. I also want to direct you to the Dupree textbook. It's Communicating About Health, Current Issues and Perspectives. It's the 6th edition. For copyright reasons, I did use an older edition of the textbook for completing the PDF of the first week. But the 2 editions are very similar. They only really differ in some of the examples and page numbers that are used. So there are copies available at the EUU bookstore, copies available for you to order. However, if you're interested in getting a copy as quickly as possible, VitalSource has a rental that you can do for about $40. I know that it can be challenging and cost intensive as a student, so I didn't want to reduce costs as much as possible and give you an ebook option, recognizing that sometimes it takes quite a while for your textbook to arrive. So if you have any issues with accessing the textbook after the first week, do let me know, but I encourage you for the time being to secure access to a book that you'll be able to use. I do my best to answer emails as quickly as possible. You should expect within 48 hours on business days, and I'll be in that as well. This is a totally online course, so it's asynchronous. You do not need to attend any Zoom meetings or anything on campus either. So I encourage you to review COVID-19 policies if you have any courses on campus. You're welcome to reach out to the Disability Services Office that will help you through the process of accommodations and additional support. I am happy to work with you on any DSO accommodations, but I encourage you to reach out to them or reach out to Student Affairs if you're encountering something like a significant issue like a loss in your family or another topic that you're in need of. We'll be talking about a whole range of topics. You might not agree about every one of them, and I encourage you to push back, to express your own perspectives, and to explore those perspectives in the class. I also fully support the diversity of student experiences, backgrounds, and perspectives, and believe that they make us stronger, and I'm committed to supporting diversity in this class. I encourage you to check your email and Canvas for updates related to the course. Please make sure that the material you produce is original to this course. I'd much rather have a late assignment than an assignment that's plagiarized or uses AI technology like ChatGPT. So if you have concerns, this is what you need to do. So the way that this course is set up, you are welcome to work ahead. I'll continue to populate some of the later assignments in the course if you would like to do so. But there are deadlines for each week that you'll need to turn in those assignments by. So I encourage you to work at the pace that works best for you. But if you're falling behind and need additional support, let me know, right? This is not a course where you can go all the way to the end of the term and then turn in everything at the end. This is a course where I encourage you to pace yourself and work through the material in a way that allows you to get through the assignments that you need. Late assignments are -5% for each day that they're late. If you do a great job in responding and engaging with the prompts in the class, I will bump you up if you're on the bubble of a grade. And I will typically grade as quickly as possible within 2 weeks. I'm happy to look at rough drafts or outlines ahead of time if you would like to send those. And then as far as assignments in this course go, each week there will be a quiz that's completely open note, open book, and unlimited time that covers the readings from that week. So I encourage you maybe to have a tab or have your notes from those readings that you can use as you're working on the quiz. During weeks where you don't have another writing assignment, there'll be a Canvas prompt that you'll be completing that will relate to the week's readings and units. Sometimes it's a discussion post on Canvas. Sometimes it's just a personal submission or assignment. So look over the prompt. You'll notice there's a breakdown of the points in the course, and then you'll use that as you're working through. And then there's also an annotated bibliography that you'll turn in a few weeks into the term. I'm asking you to pick a topic you're interested in related to health and science and identify some outside sources related to that topic that you can utilize. Later on in the term, I'll be asking you to examine a health or science topic you're interested in that disproportionately impacts a particular population, and discuss how the population has been impacted and what communication strategies like public health campaigns might be used to address these issues. I've had a variety of topics and issues people have spoken to. Issues related to wounded veterans, for example, have been topics that people have enjoyed discussing. At the end of the term, you'll turn in an essay in which you analyze a major health or science campaign and look at and assess the communication that it did. Is it effective? Is it not? What is it that this campaign is essentially doing? So explaining this campaign and how it communicates to the audience will be your last major writing assignment. There'll also be an extra credit that'll be offered toward the end of the course. And there is the social science. So this is an SSC course as well. So I know I covered a lot of ground, both in introducing myself, the course, and going over some of the course policies. But I'm really excited to see you taking this course. It's an area that I'm really passionate about, and I'm really excited to have you get to know, or to get to know all of you a little bit better. So by the end of the week, I encourage you to find a plan to secure access to the textbook, to complete the week 1 reading with the free PDF available for you to access, and to complete the week 1 quiz and week 1 activity available on Canvas too. Have a great first week of the term. Stay safe. Enjoy the springtime weather. And I will include in next week's video more information about the course going forward. Have a good one.